Today we're going to talk about why most couples drift apart from each other and end up feeling more like roommates than lovers, and what you can do about it. One of the quotes that I found myself sharing with clients over and over lately is this quote by Dr. John Gottman. He says, like the second law of thermodynamics, which says that in a closed energy system, things tend to run down and get less orderly, the same seems to be true of closed relationships like marriages. My guess is that if you do nothing to make things better in your marriage but not do anything wrong, the marriage will still tend to get worse over time. Essentially what he's saying here is if you want to overcome this natural drift that will pull you apart over time, you have to do more than just not screw things up. What you got to do is focus on two specific things. The first thing you need to do is develop what Dr. Gottman calls a low negativity threshold. So let me explain what a low negativity threshold is. Back in college, my roommates and I had this silent standoff to see who could go the longest without washing dishes. And it got to the point where I woke up one morning and one of my roommates was drinking his orange juice out of a vase and eating his breakfast cereal out of a giant salad bowl. Now, the reason we all hated doing dishes is because we waited until all the dishes were dirty to clean them. And by that time, the stuff at the bottom of the pile was all nasty and gross, and it had dry, encrusted food on it, and it took a super long time to make it through that pile of dishes. It was just easier to avoid it than to address it. Now, obviously, as I grew up, I learned that the easier way to deal with dishes is to just wash the dish right after you eat off of it, and it makes doing the dishes way easier, a much lighter load. And this idea of washing the dishes right after you use them is a great example of what it's like to have a low negativity threshold in your marriage. Essentially what it means is when negativity creeps into your relationship, whether it's a disagreement, whether it's that you feel disrespected or used or taken advantage of, or your feelings get hurt, you clean it up immediately instead of just adding it to the pile of disagreements that you're going to ignore until it's so bad that you have to address it. But in order to do this, you have to get really good at cleaning up your relationship messes. And what I've noticed is that the negative experiences that take your average couple days, weeks, or even months to process and get over, the expert couples can process those same events in hours or even minutes. And this is simply because they have done the work to develop the skill set to manage these problems quickly. The reason it's important to have a low negativity threshold in your relationship is because we already know that the natural state of your relationship is that you're drifting apart over time. And if you can't resolve your issues and those issues pile up, it just makes you drift apart even faster. The research shows that the average couple waits 6 years after experiencing an event that makes them unhappy in their relationship before they seek some sort of help. So the important takeaway here is that if you don't want your relationship to end up in roommate syndrome, where you and your partner have drifted so far apart from each other that you don't even feel like lovers anymore, then you need to get really, really good at managing conflict productively, quickly, and efficiently. The second skill you need to master is what Dr. John Gottman calls the magic ratio. During his research, he discovered that the most fulfilled couples had a ratio of 20 positive interactions to every 1 negative interaction. And during times of conflict, that ratio dropped down to 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. The most miserable couples, they had something like a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, it's easy to get overwhelmed with that number, 20 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction, but you don't need to be writing like 20 love notes a day in order to get this ratio up. These positive interactions are so small. It could be something as simple as making eye contact with your partner when they're talking to you, or holding their hand when they're walking next to you, or texting them in the middle of the day to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. All of these small things added up create this snowball of positive momentum in your relationship. When it boils down to it, date night is not enough. You need to be doing small things every single day that make a positive impact on your partner and on your relationship in order for you to combat that relationship drift and avoid getting stuck in roommate syndrome. So what are the big takeaways from today's episode? First, if all you do is not screw things up, your relationship's going to get worse over time. So you should be addressing the negativity that creeps into your marriage on a daily basis, so you don't make that natural tendency to drift apart even worse. And you need to focus on doing small things every single day that do the opposite of the drift, that bring you closer together. Work on developing that magic ratio of 20 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. Do this and you will reverse the natural drift, and you will have the type of relationship that most people only dream of. Roommate syndrome doesn't have to be difficult to overcome. It just requires a little bit of focused effort on your part. If you enjoyed today's episode, come check out my workshop called 5 Ways to Get Out of the Roommate Rut. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's free. All you have to do is go sign up for the free trial for the Epic Marriage Club at epicmarriageclub.com, and you can watch that workshop among many others absolutely for free for 7 days. It's something small you can do to invest in your marriage today.